In the United States, Thanksgiving is celebrated on the Thursday coming up, and I don't celebrate Thanksgiving because I live in Sweden, and Thanksgiving isn't much of a thing here. I know that Thanksgiving has more of a complicated history. I like the idea behind the holiday of getting together with family, eating a lot of food, and just kind of giving thanks to the things that we appreciate and we feel gratitude towards. But I know that for a lot of people, Thanksgiving is about family time, and I figured that today I would do kind of a recommendation video for a few books that I have loved or really liked that focus on family dynamics, which is a theme I really like and appreciate in books. These books particularly have the dysfunctional families for the most part, although some of them not as much. But it's about family dynamics anyway, and yeah, so I'm just gonna start. The first one is Please Look After Mom by Kyung Suk Shin. This is a book about a woman who is she's the mother of the family, and she goes missing. This book is told through multiple narratives, and it follows along this mother figure, as well as her they're trying to find her, and you get to see her life and also kind of the search for her through the eyes of the other family members. And it's a very interesting look at how a person can be understood in so many different ways, how her presence have had different impacts, and how she has been understood in different ways. In some ways, this is similar to The Vegetarian in the narrative style and in the use of multiple narratives to see one specific person in the kind of core of the book. Like The Vegetarian, the woman who becomes a vegetarian is the core of the book, but she's not the only person of interest, or even the only theme that is explored isn't vegetarianism. There's a lot of other things going on. She's just kind of the window through which the rest of the story is seen. And this is similar to that. It deals with family dynamics. It deals with motherhood. It also deals with kind of being a woman and the expectations for being a woman, specifically in South Korea and in a Korean culture, but also there's a lot of themes surrounding family that are definitely universal. Appreciated seeing a different perspective on kind of the subject. So I've been recommending this over and over again throughout the year because it's one of my favorite books of this year, and it has really stayed with me, and I think that a lot of the people who like The Vegetarian would like this. I think this might actually be a better book in my opinion. It's not as The Vegetarian is a bit weirder in the sense of having I feel like it's not exactly poetically written, but Han Kang has a very specific vision, I feel like, and it comes across in her writing. And I do think that Kyung Suk Shin's writing is more grounded, but I also really appreciate that. So anyway, I definitely highly recommend it, and I hope that you will give it a try. The next one is the only kind of happy book, I guess, on this list, and it is Little Women by Louisa May Alcott. So I read this for the first time this year. For me, this is kind of the perfect family story because it follows four sisters and the mother and the father of the family. They have a really amazing relationships within the family. They all love each other, and they really appreciate each other and grow to accept the things that make them different, but also to see the strengths in their differences and in their similarities. It was very nostalgic to read this. There's a lot of small things like making up games and going through the woods, and just kind of the imagination that a child has, and that I definitely had, and still kind of look back on. The relationships between the sisters is just amazing, and it's one of my favorite things I've read also this year. Yeah, I mean, I just wanted to include it because I think that for a lot of people, spending time with family is nice, but can also be really stressful, and this is kind of the good and the bad with family and being close to your family. I'm pretty close to my family, and I feel like I could really relate, not just being family but being friends with your family. And I feel like this definitely explores the bond between sisters and between family, and in a way that friendship is also a part of the family dynamics. And yeah, it's just a sweet story, and I will definitely be rereading this in the future. If you haven't read this, I definitely recommend it. I'm just going to add my voice to the recommendations for this book. Yeah, it's great, and it's pretty long, but it really goes by fast. I feel I read this while I was sick, in over the Easter holidays, and I just feel like it really pulled me through. So yeah, I'm probably a bit biased, but anyway. The next one is one of my favorite books of this year. It's one of the only ones I've given 5 stars. I'm pretty particular with my ratings. For me, a 4-star read is a book that I loved and that I think is really good and has a lot of strengths. But for me, a 5-star read has to have that, but also has to have something that I personally really connected with. And for some reason, this book definitely had that. This is Aquarium by David Van. I've talked about it in some of my earlier videos. It's about a young girl. I think she's 13. 12, and she meets this man at the aquarium that she spends most of her free time at. He turns out to be her grandfather, and her grandfather, she hasn't met him before, and her grandfather and her mother are kind of on the outs, and there's a lot of reasons for that. There's a lot of kind of baggage in this family, and her mother is the sole parent. The father of Caitlin, the narrator, if he's known, I don't remember if he's known at all, but he's not present in their lives, and Caitlin and her mother lives alone. Her mother has a lot of issues. A lot of them comes from her relationship with her father, and so it's kind of about the effects that bad relationships can have, and how long those effects can be seen. Like her relationship with her father kind of translates into her relationship with her daughter, and the effects kind of trickle down to her own child's life. A lot of the time, trauma of growing up in a difficult household will kind of translate into their own behavior towards their children, and this kind of a exploration of that kind of the trauma and the difficult household that she's grown up in, the house and the home that she's grown up in, and the problems that she had with her own family, and then kind of trying to make her own family and trying not to make the same mistakes. This is kind of screwed up in a lot of ways, and it's not particularly easy to read. A lot of the time, it's uncomfortable to read. It's about 2 parts of a family, so it's about the grandfather and Caitlin, so the 12-year-old and the grandfather, as well as Caitlin and her mother and her the grandfather. So it's you get to see the generational aspect of a family, and I think that is definitely really interesting. So definitely highly recommend if you haven't really figured it out by now. I love this book, so yeah, you're probably gonna hear me talk about this in the future as well. The last one that I'm going to talk about today is Tigers in Red Weather by Lisa Klausman. I read this over the summer, and it's a lot of fun. This is another one that is told in multiple narratives and multiple perspectives. It's a narrative style that I love, so that's just how it is. But this is about a family that kind of, it's about 2 families really, and they have a lot of issues. All of them have a lot of issues, and because this is told in multiple narratives, you get to see each person's own issues and problems and desires and everything that they hold back and everything that kind of comes out, and you get to see them also both from their own point of view and how they view themselves, as well as see how other people view them and how other people view events and actions and etc. The two families, it's Nick and her family as well as Helena and her family, and those Nick and Helena are friends, and they've been friends for a very long time, most of their lives. You get to see the dynamics within both families, but also kind of the relationships and the friendships between the two families. All of the characters are flawed, and there's not particularly many of them are likable, which isn't a problem at all. I feel like that is kind of what I liked about this book. They're realistic. They are real people. They have their own issues, and even when they know that they're doing something wrong, they keep doing it. That's just the human nature. Keep doing things that they know they shouldn't do, or failing even though they know that the consequences will be uncomfortable or heavy to handle, etc. It deals with a lot of themes within a family, and the things that Nick, as a housewife, sacrifices, as a wife sacrifices for her family, and the things that she doesn't want to give up. So it does deal with some gender roles too, because it is historical fiction. It's set mostly between the 40s and the 60s, I think, or even 50s to 60s or 70s. So it is historical fiction, and it does deal a bit with gender roles within families, which is another interesting theme, and expectations within a family, and also kind of expectations within a family, and what we think we should get from other people in the family, and how that is different for different families. So there's a lot of different things going on in this book. I only gave it 3 stars because there's a mystery woven into this book, and I thought that the mystery could have been handled better. But the family part of this book I loved, so I will definitely recommend it, and I definitely want to read more by this author. I want to see what she does in the future and when she's more accomplished. So those are all of the family type books that I wanted to recommend today. These are all books I've read this year, just because I wanted to keep it accurate and relevant, because I feel a bit weird talking about books I haven't read in a very long time and recommending it to people, because I haven't read it in a long time, and I'm not sure if my thoughts on it will still be accurate. So tell me if you have the same problem, because I just feel very awkward talking about a book that I haven't read in a few years, and I'm so afraid that I will recommend something that I don't like. I'm probably overthinking things, but anyway, these are all books I read this year, I really liked, and I would recommend. So, yay! So hopefully you all have, if you're